Hi everyone, so I have a review and demo for you today on a new shade in the Clinique Even Better foundation line, and I also have swatches of one of the darker, warmer shades, but the shade that I am demoing today is the 0.5 Shell color, and the other one I have for swatches is the 1 Flax color. So for me, color-wise, what looks best on camera and maybe is just a tiny smidge dark in person, but can really give me that like seamless shade match on camera under a lot of lights, is the Colourpop No Filter foundation in Fair 05. The undertone seems to be really nice for me. I have kind of a cool yellow olive undertone that's very muted because I am very fair. But I do think this Clinique shade actually is a good match. I took some pictures outside so you could see what it looks like it was a cloudy day, so lots of diffused light, and I feel like you couldn't see much of a difference between my face and my neck and chest, so that is awesome. As far as like where I am on the matte color spectrum, Studio Fix Fluid in NC10 is about a shade dark for me, maybe 2 shades by the time it actually oxidizes, which on me it does oxidize quite a lot. So I have a ton of comparison swatches. I don't really have anything that's really super close to the Flax shade, but I did try to dig around in my collection to get some of the darker colors. Most of those are a little bit more pink leaning or more strictly yellow, whereas the Flax is kind of beige. So let's go ahead and take a look at those swatches and then talk about it a little bit more. Kokie Skin Perfect HD in W10, LA Girl Pro Coverage in Fair, Estee Lauder Double Wear in 1C0 Shell, L'Oreal Pro Matte in 101. These two are like super similar. CYO Lifeproof Long Lasting in 101. Milani Conceal and Perfect in 00A Porcelain. Too Faced Born This Way in Swan. Clinique Even Better in Shell. Models on Runway Foundation in Porcelain. Clinique Even Better in Flax. Colourpop No Filter Foundation in Fair 05, MAC Studio Fix Fluid in NC10, Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless in 102 Fair Porcelain, Smashbox Studio Skin Hydrating in 0.1, Too Faced Born This Way in Cloud, NARS Sheer Glow in Siberia, Marc Jacobs Shameless in Y110, NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop in Pale, Fenty Pro Filter Soft Matte in 100, Cover Effects Power Play in N0, and Estee Lauder Double Wear in 0N1 Alabaster. Alright, so I feel like this, even though it says it's a cool undertone for the shell shade, I feel like it does have a little bit more of that kind of yellowy undertone. And it's kind of similar to the Estee Lauder Double Wear in Alabaster 0N1. I also have a review and demo on that shade if you're curious. And yeah, the color I think really is quite nice. And something like Too Faced Born This Way in Cloud I think maybe leans a teeny bit more like neutral to pink. But it is quite muted. All of these like new super fair shades are generally pretty neutral. They don't have super strong undertones either way because they're so light. I do want to mention really quickly, you could probably see in the swatches that the NARS Sheer Glow in Siberia is super similar to the Marc Jacobs Shameless in Y110. Siberia is such an unusual color, and I have not come across anything else that is so close to that undertone that's light, that's really fair. So Siberia is quite a bit darker than the other like super fair foundations, but the undertone for me is really nice, and I feel like the Marc Jacobs is also similar. So if, like me, you can't get any of NARS's foundations to like wear well on your face, I would definitely check out the Marc Jacobs in Y110 and see if it works for you. Just kind of side note there. To me, it doesn't look like the Clinique gets darker when it dries down. It seems to stay true to color, which is pretty unusual. Most of these things I've swatched do get a little bit darker as they dry down. Some get a lot darker, some only get a tiny bit darker. So that's awesome. It's really nice to be able to know that what's going on your face by, you know, a couple hours later is going to be the same color. And as far as drugstore, probably the most similar foundations in the drugstore price range would be the Colourpop No Filter in Fair 05 and the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless in 102 Fair Porcelain, though that is a little bit darker than this. Those are, I think, the closest of what I swatched. The only other thing might be this, let me just compare real quick. This Model Zone Runway Matte foundation in Porcelain. The Model Zone, I think, is a little bit peachier. Man, what is this? LA Girl. Woo! That one is bright. Dark. Yeah, I think maybe it's gotten maybe just a touch darker. If you can get the formula to work for you, I feel like this is a really nice, very fair option at the drugstore that's a little bit more accessible than something like Colourpop. So I haven't had great wear with this. I haven't had terrible wear with it. I'm still trying to figure out what I can do to make it wear better throughout the day. One thing I have noticed is it never seems to really set or dry down to not be tacky. So I do have to set this with a powder, which I prefer, if possible, not to set things with a powder, just because powder on my face is just not good. I'm older, I'm 38 years old, and the more products I put on, the more powder I put on, generally the worse my foundation looks, especially throughout the day. But this is one that it's just way too sticky for me to wear without setting it. So today I just wanted to show you a wear test with primed versus not primed. Generally, I've been getting pretty good wear when I use the Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer underneath foundations that don't wear well for me, and that's actually how I've gotten the best wear so far out of the Colourpop No Filter foundation, which when I don't use a primer, it just falls apart in about like 4 to 5 hours. And I also have to set that one with a powder, which I'm sure is not a surprise. This is the powder that I have lately had the best success at wearing things with a powder. So it's the NARS Light Reflecting Setting Powder pressed in translucent crystal. And this has been out for quite some time. It came out, I don't know, like 5 years ago. And I've had it since like 5 years ago. So I used to use this for setting my concealer under my eyes. Then I found that I really prefer to wear a foundation that doesn't require setting a concealer that doesn't require setting. And then as I've been trying to get things to work for me, for some reason I tried this one, and a no longer available, but if you have it laying around, a dupe of almost exactly the same, the Sonia Kashuk Chic Luminosity Powder, and I find them to be about the same. The nice thing is that they are actually a little bit glowy, and so they're not super, super matte. They do, I think, when you use it the way I did, which was with my damp sponge, you put on quite a bit of product, and I think that maybe it leaves a little bit of a white cast, so if you're not very fair, it may not be a great idea to use it that way. But what I love is how it can leave the most dry, silky finish on your skin. It will just feel like the compact. It's crazy. And what's really great is that even though it doesn't add a lot of thickness, which I found other powders do, so even something like the Laura Mercier loose setting powder, on me, I feel like it just adds to the thickness on my face. This doesn't add anything, but it makes it totally set a foundation, and a lot of them, it will really help how it wears without adding just texture. So I really like how it looks on my face, and it really can help out some foundations wear better. So I'm trying to give it the best shot I can to get it to wear well. I've worn this foundation probably 4 or 5 times would be my guess, and it's always looking not great at the 8 to 10 hour mark. Not terrible, but not good. And I do find that I will start getting pretty dewy looking throughout the day, and once that happens, I've noticed that like real dry finish kind of goes away, and I can feel on my chin already that it's starting to feel a little tacky again. And so I'm gonna go ahead and blot. It has not been very long, It's been about 4.5 hours, which is not very long. Just blot and see what all is coming up. And my experience has been that it will feel kind of sticky, but it's not, I'm not really oily, but it feels sticky. And I know that things will start falling apart if I don't get that oil off. Generally, I am pretty solid combination dry cheeks and then moderately oily T-zone. I used to be much oilier, but now that I'm older, have had kids, I don't know what, I'm not nearly as oily as I used to be. Skincare is also better. So I think what I'm gonna do, because I cannot deal with a sticky face, is just go ahead and add some more of the powder, like on my chin. I cannot stand when I've got like a sticky face and my hair sticks to my face. That makes me bonkers. Okay, that feels better. Yep. So we'll zoom in, see how it's looking. So you can see it's like just minor settling into that line right here. Really minor. Same over here. In the demo you probably saw like it was creasing, I smoothed it out, it was creasing, I smoothed it out, then I set it with powder. And it's continuing to crease a little bit. But I'm not gonna mess with it because it does feel dry, so I'm guessing if I try to really fix it, it's not going to go well. I don't really have, the other problem area I have is through here on this side of my face. A lot of things will kind of wear away a little bit throughout the day, and then it'll be really obvious like it's stuck in my pores but worn away on the rest of my face. I don't see that at all. This is also the side that I have the Tatcha on. So that's really my only kind of complaint with it, is just how sticky it is throughout the day. Doesn't really set down. I really do like something to set down like this does. The NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop, but this is also a really tricky formula to work with because it does set down to an actual powder. And what I love is that it gives me that dry powder finish feel. It doesn't look powdery, and it also is great with sweat and oil. It just holds up awesome throughout the day. I don't have to prime, I don't have to powder. Skincare wise, for me, the kind of game changer skincare that I wear underneath all of my foundations at the moment is the Paula's Choice Resist Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense SPF 30. It does a great job at being a good kind of tacky base for foundations to really hang on to. And generally, I get amazing wear with that SPF compared to a whole bunch of other skincare now that my skin is a little bit more oily. So things that may apply weird and they just like don't want to grab onto my face, they're kind of sliding around, like the Too Faced Born This Way and Cloud I really struggled with until I realized that Paula's Choice SPF leaves such a grippy finish that the foundation just kind of like grabbed on and looked beautiful. So I just want to mention that that's definitely a key component for me to get foundation to wear well on my face. I think that's all I wanted to say about the foundation. I will be back in, I would say 4 to 6 hours to do a final check-in. Hopefully I can do about 10 hours. I did put this face of foundation on around 10:30, 10:45 this morning, and it is about 3 o'clock right now. So I will hopefully be back in 4, 6, 7 hours. We'll see how the days goes so we can continue to look to see, does it last better on the Tatcha side? Does it matter? Does it look better on the unprimed side? We'll see. So I will be back to check in with you soon. All right, it is 9 p.m. so it's been between 10 and a half hours. So it's looking pretty good, I would say. That doesn't, I mean, it's a little shiny looking, but not bad. I do want to show you something before I blot my chin. So I don't know if you'll be able to tell. See how it's looking a little patchy and kind of polka dotted here? Not so much over here. So this is what I found with the Colourpop. When I use the Tatcha primer, so this is the same thing I experienced with the Colourpop no filter foundation, if I use the Tatcha primer and that powder, it does not do all that polka dotted thing. If I do anything else, it totally breaks down and separates in that weird way. So yeah, the Tatcha seems to sit pretty nicely under this, and I don't know that I really find it helps anywhere else, but that chin thing is such a problem area for me that it's pretty amazing to find something that actually helps with that. So I don't feel like it's gotten sticky feeling anywhere, except a little bit, like some spots by my chin, but they may also be because of baby touching my face. I'm also coming down with a cold and my nose is starting to drip. So I did not blow my nose, but there's been some delicate dabbing to try to avoid disturbing my foundation. So I had a little foundation come off on the blotting sheet, but not a ton, just a bit. And I found with things that are kind of sticky like that, where I need to set them, they seem to be more likely to transfer off when I'm blotting. It's not looking bad at all in the crease around my nose, which is unusual because I have dermatitis there. So things tend to get really flaky and funky looking, but it's really not looking bad. It tends to look a little bit more like it does on this side. Kind of surprised at how good it looks on that side. You can see it's moved a little bit here. Got a little bit of that kind of polka dotted, patchy situation. There seems to be actually less on this side. I feel like the Tatcha is not great for me on creasing. Like, it helps my chin for sure, but doesn't seem to really make a big difference with creasing, which I know Taylor said that it helps her with creasing, but I have not found that to be the case with mine. Yeah, like really no creasing up here in that line. So overall, I definitely think this is a formula worth checking out. It's not, the wear time on it isn't fabulous without a primer and powder for me. Actually, it's pretty bad without a primer and powder. I feel like powder is just a must because it never seems to really set. I've given it like hours in the past to try to see if it was going to eventually set down. It never really did on my face. It always felt a little tacky, and I found that it just kind of moves around, and I really can't stand having a tacky finish on my foundation. So that's my only kind of real downside on this, is that the wear time is not as good as some of my other foundations, and it remains sticky, and I have to use a powder. Fortunately, I have a primer and powder combo that seems to work pretty well and doesn't look heavy on my skin, and it just wears really nicely throughout the day. So I'm happy about that. And I feel like the color is really nice. I feel like on camera it doesn't look too white either, which is great. And I feel like in person it looks good, outside it looks good. I feel like the color is really a pretty good fit for me, so I'm happy about that as well, because I don't have, a lot of them are kind of in this weird little limbo where in some situations they look good, in other situations I don't really love the way they look, and they might look a little whitish pink. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'm glad that I've continued to test this to try different combos out to find something that worked better for me. Let me know if you have any questions about the foundation. I am going to have a separate video on this eye look. Hopefully, I recorded it. Hopefully it comes out okay. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions on the Clinique or any of the foundations that I swatched. I do have reviews for most of those foundations, but not all of them. So let me know if you saw something there that you would like to see me review. I definitely would love to do that for you. Yeah, let me know if you plan on picking it up, trying to get a sample, whatever. When I bought these, they were not in store anywhere near me. So that's why I went ahead and bought them from Ulta online. But I imagine they're going to be trickling out to stores at some point, and hopefully you can get a sample and see how you like the formula. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video today and leaving a comment or a like and subscribing. All that stuff means a lot to me. And yeah, if you'd like to see more videos from me, please do subscribe. I have a bunch of foundation reviews and swatches and all that good stuff. And I will, as usual, link my foundation playlist so you can check it out. And yeah, I think that's about it. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.